When organisations consider expanding or deepening their presence in Denmark, one of the most decisive success factors is how effectively they navigate the country's regulatory environment. Denmark is consistently ranked among the world's most attractive markets for doing business, owing to its political stability, highly educated workforce, and strong infrastructure. At the same time, its regulatory framework is rigorous, particularly across areas such as labour law, taxation, data protection, ESG reporting, and sector-specific licensing. For international leadership teams, the challenge is not only understanding the letter of the law, but translating that understanding into practical, commercially sound decisions. This is where strategic consulting support can transform regulation from a perceived constraint into a genuine source of competitive advantage. Denmark's labour market offers an illustrative example. The flexicurity model combines flexible hiring and firing rules with strong social protections and collective agreements. On paper, this may look complex and unfamiliar to foreign executives. Yet when guided by advisors who understand both Danish labour institutions and global HR strategies, companies can leverage this model to design agile workforce structures, optimise shift patterns, and implement performance-based incentives that remain fully compliant with local norms and regulations. Rather than seeing Danish labour rules as restrictive, leading firms use them to attract high-calibre talent, build a strong employer brand, and enhance retention in a tight talent market. Taxation is another area where Denmark's reputation can be misunderstood. Nominal tax rates may appear relatively high, but the real question for investors is how the tax system interacts with their operating model, capital structure, and long-term growth plans. Strategic consultants can conduct scenario-based tax impact assessments, align holding structures with Danish and EU rules, and ensure that transfer pricing models withstand regulatory scrutiny. The result is a tax footprint that is both compliant and optimised, avoiding costly disputes while preserving strategic flexibility for future expansion, acquisitions, or restructuring. Data protection and digital regulation represent a further critical dimension. Denmark is fully aligned with EU frameworks such as GDPR, the Digital Services Act, and sector-specific cybersecurity requirements, especially in areas like finance, healthcare, and critical infrastructure. For digital-first companies, this can feel like a dense regulatory landscape. Yet with the right advisory support, organisations can embed privacy by design and security by design principles into their platforms and processes from the outset. Consultants work across legal, IT, product, and risk teams to map data flows, categorise risks, define governance, and implement controls that not only meet compliance thresholds, but also strengthen customer trust and brand reputation in a market that is highly sensitive to data ethics. Sustainability and ESG reporting are also central to doing business in Denmark. The country has ambitious climate targets and a strong societal expectation that companies contribute positively to the green transition. Regulatory requirements tied to EU taxonomy, CSRD reporting, and sector-specific environmental standards are becoming more demanding each year. Strategic advisors can help leadership teams move beyond a check-the-box mentality by building integrated ESG strategies that align regulatory expectations with business value. This includes mapping regulatory requirements to operational levers such as energy efficiency, supply chain traceability, circular economy models, and green financing opportunities, turning compliance into a platform for innovation, cost savings, and preferential access to capital. Sector-specific regulations add another layer of complexity, especially in highly regulated domains such as pharmaceuticals, medical technology, financial services, renewable energy, and infrastructure. In each of these sectors, Denmark has its own institutional structures, approval processes, and supervisory expectations, often linked closely with broader EU regulations. Leading consulting support brings together multidisciplinary teams that understand policy developments, stakeholder landscapes, and technical standards. They can help organisations design market entry or expansion strategies that anticipate approval timelines, align product and service design with regulatory criteria, and manage stakeholder engagement with Danish authorities, industry bodies, and local partners in a structured, transparent way. For executives and boards, the question is how to orchestrate all of these regulatory dimensions within a coherent strategy. Operating in Denmark is not about reacting to individual rules one by one. It is about building an integrated regulatory risk and opportunity framework that is embedded into corporate governance, portfolio decisions, and day-to-day operations. Strategic consultants typically begin with a diagnostic, assessing your current exposure across legal, tax, labour, data, ESG, and sectoral domains, benchmarking your practices against peers and best-in-class operators, and mapping where regulatory shifts are most likely to affect your business model over the next 3 to 5 years. From there, they co-create a prioritised roadmap, defining concrete initiatives, governance structures, and key performance indicators that align regulatory compliance with commercial outcomes. Importantly, effective regulatory navigation in Denmark is not a one-time project. It is an ongoing capability. Regulation evolves, particularly in areas like digital, sustainability, competition, and public procurement. Strategic partners can help you institutionalize this capability by setting up early warning mechanisms, regulatory watch functions, and cross-functional steering groups that ensure your organization stays ahead of change. They can also support capability building, from targeted training for country managers and functional leaders to playbooks and decision frameworks that make compliance a natural part of commercial planning rather than a late-stage obstacle. For organisations considering Denmark as a new market, or for those already operating here and facing mounting regulatory complexity, the key is to shift perspective. Instead of asking, how do we minimise the burden of regulation? Ask, how can we leverage Denmark's regulatory environment to differentiate ourselves, build trust, and create long-term value? With the right strategic consulting support, Denmark's rules and standards become clearer, more predictable, and more manageable. They can guide sharper strategic choices, de-risk major investments, and position your organisation as a responsible, trusted, and high-performing player in one of Europe's most sophisticated and future-oriented markets. If your leadership team is preparing to make critical decisions about investment, restructuring, or expansion in Denmark, now is the moment to bring a structured, strategic lens to regulation by partnering with advisors who combine deep regulatory insight with commercial and operational expertise. You can navigate complexity with confidence and unlock the full potential of the Danish market as a platform for sustainable, long-term growth.